All right, this is the initial broadcast or the initial recording of Pod Central. It's a ministry that we have at Central Baptist now where we get to interview people within Central Baptist that have neat stories to tell, or maybe people that have stories to tell that not very many people know about. And in the case that we have today, we have Melinda Ross here with us. Now, Melinda is the piano player at Central Baptist and has been ever since I've been here at Central, which I was here back in 1999 when Bruce was here at the old church, and you were doing it then. And so I've oftentimes looked down from the pews and thought, man, she's great, and I know she has a story, and I want to hear that story. So, Melinda, welcome.
Well, thank you.
A little closer. There you go.
Sure.
Okay, Melinda, that I've kind of given the, and today is April 28th, 2010. Thank you for coming here. I appreciate you taking time out of your day.
Sure.
Okay, tell us, Melinda, you're married. Married to whom? And
I'm married to Mark Ross.
Okay, tell me a little bit more about how y'all met and what happened there. How'd y'all get hooked up?
Well, we worked in the same office building. We were both single in 98. And we just kind of got to know each other over a few months and started dating. And then I found out he was going to church at Central.
So he brought you along.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
His parents go to church at Central, Mary Jean and Tracy Tidwell.
Oh,
Tracy,
I had no idea.
yes.
Tracy, goodness
Yes.
sakes. He's one of our very favorites, and he just passed away not long ago.
Yes, Mary Jean is
Okay.
Mark's mother, and then Mark's dad is Roy Ross, who's married to Mona Ross, and they are members at Central.
Gotcha. I'm putting
So-
two and two together now. See, I didn't know all this.
So he started coming down here, and I live in South Tyler, so it's really not that far to come down here. I live off Cumberland Road. So
Even now?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was living there, and we live there now. So anyway, he was coming down here, so I decided, we weren't engaged or anything, but I started listening to Central on the radio. And the choir was so good, and they did so many songs I loved. So at one point, I even wrote Kelvin a letter and just said, if you ever need a sub to play the piano, give me a call. Because I was playing at First Christian in Tyler.
Okay.
And that was good, but I was Baptist.
I understand.
So anyway, when he called me, I started coming to choir with Mark. And so eventually he asked me to play. So that's how I got started playing.
And when Kelvin heard you play the first time,
Yeah,
it was like, she's here, man.
Just as a sub. And this was in 98.
Okay.
And we got married in 99. So I've just played ever since then.
Uh-huh.
Of course, with Mary. Mary does a lot. And I would just sub in and out with her. And
I see. Now, and so you began dating back in the early days?
98, yeah.
Okay. And then how long was it before he stuck a ring on your hand?
We got married in September of 99. So we dated almost 2 years before we got married.
Okay. All right. Now, I also remember that I remember in the old church watching you play. It was somewhere back in there when you were diagnosed with some cancer.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that.
It was right around 9/11
Yeah.
of 2001. It was
Okay.
just like, all this happened about the same time. And it was breast cancer, and they did surgery, and they took lymph nodes, and the lymph nodes were clear, but they did chemo and then radiation. And at that time, I lost my hair, and I decided, well, if I'm going to wear a wig, it's going to be fun. So I had this blonde wig, and I had a red wig, and I know those wigs were horrible. They didn't look like my hair, but everybody at Central was so sweet. Nobody ever came up and said, that looks horrible. And it was kind of a joke, what I would show up with every week. So, but I really stayed busy, and the music and all the things I was involved in just kept me going, although I felt horrible for months, and it was really about 2 years before my hair came back.
Yeah, I remember the wigs, and I remember all that, and I remember. Tell me more about the cancer. In other words, on the day, what happened? Tell me, go a little deeper into that.
There was just this hard knot. So we went, I got tested probably about a week later, and then 2 weeks later, they called back and said they needed...
You had a mammogram of some
Right.
sort? Okay.
Right, and all kind of ultrasound. And they acted real strange when I went, so I thought something was wrong. And they just kept retesting, and so they finally, about 2 weeks later, called me in and told me it was cancer, and Mark went with me, and they let me decide if I wanted a full mastectomy or if I just wanted a lumpectomy, where they take out just mainly the tumor.
Right.
So I had the lumpectomy.
You had the lumpectomy.
Right.
Okay.
And it's in remission.
Okay. Have you had anything since then, cancer-wise?
No, it has not come back.
At all?
No.
Well, praise the Lord for that.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful thing.
And I had always been real healthy, and the cancer was really kind of good because it helped me to understand what people go through.
Yeah.
And people were so wonderful and helpful to me during all that time, and I know they were praying for me. And
I'm going to put you on the spot here because I thought of it. But tell me a story from that time in your life about the cancer that you would say was memorable, or something that you remember from that time that really was different or interesting.
Well, I remember Kelvin, he would call, he said, "Do you feel like playing?" And I would just drag up on Wednesday nights because I kept my job. I kept working the whole time.
You worked the whole time while you were taking the cancer?
Yeah, I never took off any.
Oh, my goodness.
He'd say, "Do you feel like playing?" I'd come, and one night I was just deathly ill because I'd had like chemo the day before, and Tina Kenny, Mike Kenny's wife.
Yeah, I remember
was
the
there with
Kennys.
this chicken casserole. And if you've had chemo, you know that a lot of times if you go too long without eating, you're sick. And anyway, that was just a lifesaver. We got home and I just dug into that. And you can just feel the love when people do that.
Yeah.
And I remember running into Julie Cantor when I found out I was going to have chemo. And when I told her, she just started bawling.
Really?
And sometimes when you just show empathy for people, because she had been through that, but you just show that you care, and that's all people really need sometimes.
Yeah. It meant a lot to you.
Care. It really did. And I knew she was praying.
Yeah, that's cool. And Julie plays the piano a lot in times when you're not playing the piano, I guess. I don't know how y'all figure out who's playing that week, but you play the majority of the time. Would you say?
I'm the regular.
You're the regular.
Right.
Okay.
And if I'm out of town, she'll play a lot, or Mary will play a lot.
Right. Take us back into your musical past, because I one of my favorite memories of you is in Tyler, there's the old, I think they called it Casey's Restaurant, CACE''S. And Becky, that's my wife, and I'm Joe Casey, by the way. So me and my wife were up there, and you were playing the whole night, and we were like, wow, she's really, because it wasn't church music, you were playing other stuff. Okay, take us back into your musical past, and what charges your batteries, where'd it come from, tell us more about that.
It's kind of an odd story. There was a lady named Shelba Gray. Don and Shelba Gray were the music ministers at First Baptist Troop when I was a little girl. And I would sit and watch her. She would just tear the piano up, just chromatic scales all up and down the piano. Just flashier the better. And I would just be mesmerized. And I wanted to play the piano, but we didn't have a piano. So I had to wait. See, I started wanting to play when I was about 6. And then when I was 10, my parents let me take lessons, but we didn't have a piano. So I would go to the school and practice at the school. So it was just, when you wait for something that long, it was just a privilege to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was pretty well addicted. I would practice maybe 4 hours a day.
Really?
So I started taking lessons at 10. By the time I was 11, I was playing for graduations and weddings and things like that, because this was a small town right out of Livingston, Texas.
Yeah.
And I took for 4 years, and then my teacher moved away, so that's all
You took 4 years of piano lessons, and after that, it's just you and
work.
You probably could have, yeah.
But, I went to TJC, and I was in the Harmony and Understanding group, and I learned a lot of jazz from J.W. Johnson. He was the director, so he would show me jazz licks and things. So that's where I picked up the jazz.
I see.
I was a business major. I wanted to major in music, but my parents and nobody wanted me to do that.
Really?
They just wanted me to do something stable.
I see. Would you say that what's the secret of playing piano so well? Is it the time? Is it just a gift from God? What I mean, in other words, you're truly not in a class your own, but your ability to play the piano is phenomenal. I don't know if you're practicing 10 hours a day or something, but what's your feeling there?
I think there was a gift to start with, but then the desire to do it.
Yeah.
It's a huge part. But then, and I play classical music. I like classical music, but Christian music, it's a whole different.
Okay. Tell me this, musically speaking. there's 600 people at Central Baptist in a whole choir, and the piano in church music, I don't want to say is the main thing, but it's probably the main instrument if you really, I mean, everybody's working together, I know that, but the piano, it seems like you've, how do I say it right? I'm not saying it well, but
kind of the utility.
Yeah, you're in everything. You do, you know, some songs there's no drums, some songs the trombone's not playing, but every song you're playing. What's it like to be not in the spotlight, but you know, certainly where people are watching you? What in the church service? What's it like for you to sit up there? Is it just another day in the office? Tell me.
It's a huge privilege and a blessing, but it's a huge responsibility that I take very seriously. I mean, you don't come to church and not concentrate. I mean, you are on.
Yeah.
And rehearsal, same way, because the director depends on you to start the song, have the right tempo, so you are 100% focused.
Yeah. And how much of like on a Sunday morning when you walk in, how much preparation time have you put in every week for that Sunday morning? What are you putting in extra in terms of that?
Well, the rehearsal on Wednesdays usually about an hour and a half, and that's intense. But I would every weekend I would put in, I would say 2 hours, just going through it, making sure I can do the transitions correctly. And you know, if I'm doing a solo, it's a lot more. But really doing solos is not I don't mind doing them, but what I really love is to work with someone else and
Really?
let that mesh together.
I understand. Okay, now sometimes I see you play with the whole orchestra and the choir and everything, but oftentimes there's a three-piece, and it seems like there's been a lot of bass guitar and drums. Tell me a little bit about what's going on there.
That's just so fun because, you know, like Sunday, I could have played that piece, Blessed Assurance, by myself. But what was so fun was getting Preston and Eric to play with me and just use their abilities and just see it mesh together.
Preston's one of those kind of guys that up and coming musician. In other words, he's definitely gifted. If he puts the time in, something's going to happen there. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, very talented. He could play just about anything.
Yeah, it's really neat stuff. Tell us about. You glanced on it earlier, but tell me a little bit more about what I know. Music is heavy for you at Central Baptist. You're big into that. What else about Central Baptist? Makes your clock tick.
The people, and people in Tyler ask me a lot. Why do you drive to Jacksonville?
Yeah.
And I said, well, there's real people. There are real people down there, and I've really seen that. They really care for each other. They really lift each other up in prayer. We have an awesome Sunday school class. Pat Sosha is our teacher, and she keeps up with us.
Is that co-ed, or which one's that? Is that the women-only one?
It's women.
Okay.
It's women.
So you and Mark are splitting up for Sunday school?
he's been teaching second graders for about 8 years.
Yeah.
And he loves that.
I think all my kids went through his thing. I knew the answer to that one, but I thought of...
We did go together for a while. Dr. Creed was our teacher. He was great, but then Mark decided he wanted to teach, and I got in there with those ladies, and we have a great time. Yeah.
So, well, that's neat stuff. Okay, so we got in church, you got music, you got Sunday school. Anything else you want to say about Central? That's
I've just the spiritual leadership I've had working with Kelvin and Cheryl and Ray and Margie. The people I've worked with musically have been a real spiritual influence. Until you work really closely with someone, you don't really realize how much you impact another person. And then Dr. Bruce and Dr. Darren, sermons were great.
Yeah, without a doubt, that's for sure. Okay, if you're not in church, what are you doing? What's your hobbies? What it can't be piano in church all day long. There's something else going on there. What do you do?
Church maybe 2 or 3 times a year.
It's not often.
I don't miss it. But if I'm not there, I'm probably at a tennis tournament.
Oh, really?
Yes, and I would play a lot more, but they play on Sunday mornings. Most of them
You're kidding me.
You play on Saturday.
Those heathen, what do you think?
Except the Jacksonville tournament, they'll usually let me finagle around and play after church. But most of them, if you do well at all, you play on Sunday morning for the finals.
Gotcha. And so are you playing doubles or singles or just everything?
Mainly singles.
Okay.
I'm on a 3-5, which is an intermediate ladies team, and not a whole lot of people want to play singles. So I'm the...
Are you the champion?
Well, no, but I'm the one that usually does it.
Oh, okay.
So I really love it, and I love doubles too, but singles is really my deal.
That's your. Now you mentioned work earlier.
Right.
Where do you work? If you don't mind.
I work for Cox Interest. It's an oil and gas trust.
And what do you do?
Office manager, keep the books, just anything that needs to be done. And I've been there 21 years.
Okay.
And the family I work for lives in Chicago.
Oh, my.
But they have an office here because most of their oil and gas and real estate is in this area.
Wow. So they're trusting you quite a bit, I would assume. The boss is 800 miles away. That's a cool job. I'd stay there, too, if I were you.
I do talk with them a lot, and they come in several times a year, too.
Sure. Tell me about your walk with Christ. I don't want to leave an interview without really talking about that a little bit. Tell me about your walk with Christ, maybe your conversion. Tell me something about what the Lord means to you, and let's kind of finish up in that strain of we sing about Him, you play about Him. That's a big. But tell me about Him in your life.
I depend on Him and walk with Him every day. And in fact, we had a ladies' retreat last fall, and I learned about this book. It's called "Starting Your Day Off or Starting Your Day Right and Ending Your Day Right." So there's 2 devotionals you read every day, Joyce Meyer, and it was recommended to me at the retreat. So just opening my day with devotion and prayer, and always ending with devotion and prayer, and just dwelling in His presence all day.
I see.
Is where I am. But really, as far as music, I love the quote that says, "I play the notes, but God makes the music." So when we worship together, to be able to participate in the music and worship that way that's just the best part of the week.
Sure. I understand completely. Well, what else can you think of? Is there anything else that I've not asked about that you think the public at large, because hopefully a lot of people are going to listen to this.
Yes, everyone's going. I just thank all the people at Central for being so friendly and treating me like family.
Yeah, Central's a really neat church where there's no splits. There's no. I bet you people treat you real well as far as, have you ever had anybody come to you after church and go, "Man, that was horrible. That was bad." Has that ever occurred?
Well, one time I played this really fancy arrangement of How Great Thou Art, and I'm not going to say who, but this person came up and said, "I figured out what that was at the end of it, but I could hardly tell what you were playing."
If that's the worst you've heard, then I can believe it. Well, it's been great to get to know you here, and I, again, thank you for doing the music at Central and being that front person on the piano. If there's times where I personally have listened to you play and wondered, is that 2 people down there or what's going on? But it's not. It's just you, and you do a phenomenal job. So I'm glad to get to know you a little bit better, and hopefully the other people that listen to Pod Central will as well. And just thank you for taking this time out and continue to do the work you're doing. That's for sure. And hopefully soon we'll have a music minister that will come on board. I know you'll be tied to the hip to him or her when that does occur, and we'll just continue to do the great things in the music ministry that are going on now.
Looking forward to it.
You bet.